Hey everybody, this is Miss Stevens, and today we're going to be going over the very basics of Adobe Photoshop. So this is your interface. You can see at the very top where it says Photoshop, you have a file for creating new and opening old files, for saving files, ways you can edit, adjusting the DPI, things you can do with the layers. But for today, we're mostly going to be dealing with where things are, which you can always find almost everything under the window. And we're going to be dealing with these tools. And to keep things really simple, we're going to learn how to use the paintbrushes and adjust things and tools that require the use of the paintbrush by making something simple like the pizza. So, bye-bye pizza. All right, so to get started, if you're making a brand new file from scratch, we're going to go to File and New. And when that happens, this will open up. And you can see you have some options. If you're a photographer, you may want to start with photo. Most of the work we're making is for print. So I'm going to click that. For what I'm doing today, 8.5 by 11 is perfect. That's a regular standard sheet of paper. Over here, you want to make sure that it's set to inches. And you want to make sure that your resolution is 300. Anything lower than that, it's going to be very pixely. And where it says Untitled, I always like to put my name in there, and then the name of the project that we're working on, in this case, pizza. Press Create. Beautiful. Now it defaults to putting the document title in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to click on that title and drag it away because I want to be able to move it where I want. And then we're going to start using some of these tools. So if we go over to our layer bar, which PS, all of these things right now are out because right now this workspace is set up to my specifications as Stevens Paint. You're probably used to using a workspace that's set up in Essentials, and that's totally fine if you like that. If you want something similar to what I have up here, you can click on Painting, and that will give you some color swatches, the history, the layers, your brushes. I also like to have my brush settings up. I think that's really handy for what we're doing today. And I really like having my color sample up too, so I can change the colors quickly. So from here, I'm going to actually save this real quick because I like this workspace. And I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, New Workspace, and you can save it whatever you want that will help you remember so that next time when you sign into Photoshop, it's ready to go. So from here, I'm going to use my marquee tool. If you're looking at your toolbox, it's either going to look like this in 2 rows if you prefer. I'm very used to working with it in 1 row, so I'm going to keep mine like that. But if you would like to adjust it, you can press these little arrows and move it whichever way you wish. So second from the top, you're going to see one of these 4 things. These are your marquee tools. You'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner of all of these tools are a tiny little white triangle, and that means there are other tools hidden underneath it. So if you ever are looking for a tool and you can't find something, consider holding it down if you see that little triangle, because it's likely just hiding underneath a different tool. And I'm going to make a round pie today, so I'm going to use this elliptical marquee. I'm going to click it, and when I click again and drag, you can see I can make an oval. And those ants are marching, which is really handy. If I want to keep it a perfect circle, I can try to eyeball it, or I can press Shift, and it will snap to a perfect circle. And that's what I want, so I'm going to let go. The marching ants are still moving. And now I want to fill this with color. But before I do, I want to make sure I'm not doing it on the background. I might want to put a pattern in the background or a plate or something like that. So to make sure that I'm making my life easier in the future, I'm going to go to my layer bar and then over to these little lines on the right-hand corner and choose New Layer. I'm going to call it Crust and press OK or tap Enter. So now I have these marching ants. I want to fill it with my crust color. So you can look at your swatches if you wish, or you can look over to your color bar and adjust it. But choose a color that you like. And now you have some options. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from the top, you'll see your brush tools, B for brush, and if you click that and go over it, you can see nothing can happen outside the edge of my marquee tool, these marching ants. The marching ants are going to block everything extra from happening. But you also see the kind of brush that I chose is a little bit spotty for what I'm doing. I'm choosing something a little more basic. And I'm going to make it larger either by going to your brush settings and making it larger, or I like to use my brackets. The bracket on the right will make it bigger, and the bracket on the left will make it smaller, and I can click and go over it. And you'll notice something else I did not prepare for. This brush is not fully opaque, and that is because the last time I painted, I must have had it at the opacity of 54%, which is not covering it entirely. And that's also creating a slightly slower lag on my computer. So I'm going to make sure this is fully opaque so I can show you the difference and go over it. And it is taking a little bit longer to render because of the brush that I chose, but that's pretty darn good. So from there, I like this color. I'm pretty happy with it. But I'm going to experiment a little bit more and see if I can change it up a little bit. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter. And instead of using my paintbrush to fill it, inch by inch, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 tools, and you're going to see the paint bucket tool, also accessible by pressing the G key. And when I click that, what that will do is it will fill this whole area that's constrained with one click with a new color. So it got a little lighter. I like that. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to select, deselect, or Control D to get rid of those marching ants. And I think it's time for sauce. So the next layer of the pizza requires another layer of sauce. New layer, name it sauce, press OK. And I'm going to have to choose what kind of sauce I want. I'm going to go red, kind of a classic Neapolitan kind of lady. And I want to choose a brush that kind of feels like it could be sauce. What do we have here? Let's try this charcoal. Let's see. And I want to check and make sure it's still in the brush tool, because every now and again it'll switch to smudge, and that's really kind of a pain. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And I want to check the spacing and see if that does anything. I'm going to leave it. So from here, making my brush larger using the brackets, I'm going to go over the sauce a couple times. Oh, I like that. All right. And to give it a little variation, I'm going to go a little lighter. Not bad. And I'm going to also show you a trick. Underneath the paintbrush tool, on the very bottom, is something called the mixer brush. And what the mixer brush will do is it will mix the colors that are in your top paint swatch and the colors that are currently underneath on your document together, and it blends them kind of like wet paint. It looks like last time I was using the mixer brush, it was on this parsley looking thing, so I'm going to change the brush again. All right. And the right bracket to make it larger, and let's see what happens. Not really mixing the way I wanted it to, but that's okay. Try a different color. All right, so from there, last but not least, we're going to need some cheese. So for the next layer of pizza, we're going to need a new layer in Photoshop. Name it cheese. Press OK. And go through and choose a brush that you like that resembles the cheesiness that you're hoping for. I'm going to go for this, I think. I'm going to get like a nice kind of burnt cheesy. And go right over it. Whoop. Looks like Parmigiana. Beautiful. And I'm going to add a little bit of parsley back on there. I know I got rid of it before, but space it out if I want to. Choose the green that I want. And kind of dance around the pizza with my toppings. If you want pepperoni, you go for it. You want sausage? Fantastic. Mushrooms? Fantastic. Whatever it is that you want on your pizza, you don't have to ask permission. It is totally fine. And now I have all of my layers. If you look over at your layer bar, you'll notice I have a cheese layer that you can make visible or invisible by clicking this eye, a sauce layer, and even a crust layer. Right now, because my cheese is gray, that means that I'm on that layer. I can activate that layer. If I wanted to do something to the crust layer, I'd have to click on it to make that gray, to make that activated. And I think I'm going to do that right now because I want to show you one more trick, which is dodging and burning. You can activate this with O, the key command, and you're going to see one of three things, either this lollipop, which is dodging the sun, getting lighter, this hand, which is burning, getting darker, or the sponge, which has more to do with color and doesn't really apply in this particular case. So I'm going to choose my burn tool and a large, soft brush. And what that burn tool is going to do, right now it's set to 61%, so that means it's going to make this darker pretty darn quickly. So I'm burning in that crust a little bit. And you'll notice I'm not clicking a lot. I'm clicking every couple of inches, every couple of strokes. This way you don't have 100 actions. You can go back through time, through your history if you wish, pretty easily, as opposed to having to scroll through a whole slew of things. You can just go right back. If I wanted to make it lighter, you can go to my dodge tool. Again, soft brush. Oopsies. That is not a soft brush. You saw what happened when it was not soft. Let me soften that. There we go. And I can make that crust a little bit lighter in the areas that I want it to. So now I'm going to put it back. The sauce is back. The cheese is back. Everything looks delicious. So I could be done. I could also put it in perspective if I wished. To do that, I would need to activate all three layers at the same time. So I already have my crust layer activated. I'm going to press Shift to select my sauce and to select my cheese at the same time. When I go to Edit, Transform, otherwise known as Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC, you'll see these bounding boxes pop up. And these are the boxes that will allow me to adjust the size, the width, or if I want to right-click, skew. Now, skew is pretty cool because what that will do is it will allow me to adjust in a dramatic way the perspective of this pizza. Now, that doesn't look right yet because right now it's still kind of flying up in the sky. But if I press Enter to complete this action and make the bounding box go away, and then up to Edit, Transform, or Command T again, I can drag only the top down and suddenly, oopsie, excuse me, suddenly, that thing is laying on a very real very delicious table that I hope to be invited to when we eat this fantastic pizza. All right, so I think that just about completes our pizza tutorial. It's a little darker. To save this file, you're going to go File, Save As, and 99.9% of the time, unless you are totally complete with the project, you're going to want to save it as a Photoshop file. You're going to want to save it as a PSD. So that's important. If you don't save it as a PSD, you will lose all of your layers, you will lose all of your work. So you would File, Save. But if you wanted to save it for the AP test or for uploading to a class project, you would File, Save As, and use the drop-down menu to choose your JPEG. And when you do that, notice all of your files, all of your layers are going to flatten into one. Press OK, and you've got that smaller, more manageable JPEG that you can now upload. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I also wanted to mention that this lesson was designed by art teacher Evangeline Christdoulou, who is an amazing art teacher who showed me this exact process in 2015. And I wanted to make sure to credit her before posting this. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day, and let me know how it goes.